John Claypool will do the invocation.
Father, we again stand before you in thanksgiving for all of our blessings. I ask you to watch over those lions that can't be here due to their health. We're thankful to see Ron Stoffler back. We ask you to help the club in all of its endeavors to serve our community. Watch over us as we help others. We thank you for this food. We ask you to bless it to our bodies and us in your service. Amen.
Amen. I, the flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mayor of the song. My country is of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers lie, land of thy pilgrim pride, from every mountain side, let freedom ring. Bob, you're up.
All right. President Lloyd, fellow Lions and guests, along with our guest speaker, Steve Wine, we have two visitors from the Vader Lions Club, Kathy Crawford and Nikki. And Ron is here too.
Okay, Bob Piper. Ooh.
President Lloyd, fellow Lions and guests, tomorrow will be my wedding anniversary. Look at that. It will be 54 years. I was 7 when I got married.
She got you broke in yet?
54 years, not $54 for the happy bucks?
Just 54 years.
Here's Lion Dwayne Smith.
President Lloyd, fellow Lions and guests, here's happy $5 after next week meeting. I'm going to be heading out for Hawaii for a couple weeks to warm up.
How sad. Lion Allison.
President Lloyd, fellow Lions and guests. I just want to say my guest here didn't get a chance to sign up. Her name is Yesenia Perez. She works with me at ESC 112. I have a bittersweet dollar. As some of you might have heard, I recently got a promotion in my current work, which means I won't be able to come to the Tuesday meetings as often as I'd like to because I'll be in Vancouver. But I'm hoping to visit some other Lions clubs in the Vancouver area, and I'll definitely be around for weekend things, so rope me into whatever you got going on.
All right.
We will remember.
Oh, wow. Anita.
Oh, who's next? Here's Anita from Vader Lions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
President Lloyd, fellow Lions.
Better stand up so we can.
And yes.
I have an advertising dollar. We are having a steady feed in Vader at the Islam Bud Church on March 18th, starting at 4. We will have raffles and drawings and all kinds of great things. And we're calling it Steady by the Tracks. They're $12 a person, and we want all of you to come. Okay?
Where's Vader?
It's on the road to White.
The money goes towards, I can't even remember, you guys, really. I didn't expect to have to stand
So
like
you
this all
traffic
day.
or something?
Gee.
What did you think? You were just going to hand out tickets and say,
It's not so good
Look at Patterson flashing all those bills.
You have it for me? Oh, okay, then, it's the beast's turn.
And here's Ryan Steve.
Thank you, Sharon. 3 happy dollars today. The first happy dollar, President Lloyd and all Lions and guests. First happy dollar is, it's wonderful to see one stopper back. And past district governor, Kathy Crawford, lovely.
Yeah.
This is a happy, well, sad dollar. We had to say goodbye to our old chuck wagon the other day. We gave it to the Peninsula Lions, and they're going to return a favor and donate some money for probably ALCIF, I believe. That's how that's going to work. But we said goodbye, and it's now safely somewhere up the Long Beach Peninsula. And Carrie Ann, you can pass this on. This is a Name the Baby dollar. And for those of you who do not know, Katie Dillinger is with child. And I suggested we start a contest, to name the baby. I went to high school with a guy, his name was Harry Leg. So I'm thinking, how about Harry Leg Dillinger?
I like Hugo.
I don't like Bruno. I like Goober. Goober.
Kathy, former district governor? Whoa!
President Lloyd, fellow Lions and guests, I'm just happy to be here, happy to be alive, and in 2 weeks I'll be happy to be standing up on my new right leg. Great job.
Larry Hansen.
President Lloyd, fellow Lions and guests. $2 happy dollars. Good job.
We're training her. Force.
The same thing, training. Trust me, after being in the Army 8 years, same thing. My $2 happy dollars is the fact that last week I had the pleasure of having my daughter here from Montana. Until all I forget, I said, were you listening?
I wasn't listening.
And part of us, she was here, she managed to strip all the wallpaper off in the front hallway and repainted it for us. So that's $2 happy dollars.
Yeah. That should be my baptism. Gee, about that.
And here we have Terry, Lion Terry.
Well, at least somebody likes me a lion. Good deal. President Lloyd, fellow Lions, yes, happy dollar or an information dollar at any rate. Been spending some time with Reineke, of course, Jim, and Eileen, of course, didn't want to feel left out, so she got sick. Had to spend a day in the emergency room, and you know how those things go. You do spend a day there. And at any rate, she's back home later that night, but they're having trouble getting her prescription to her and stuff because they do by mail, and I don't know, anyway, it takes a long time. Anyway, she's now on the mend, hopefully. She sounded good yesterday when I talked to her, so anyway, that's where they are.
Okay, who's next? Oh,
You missed Mark.
Jim McDaniel.
President Lloyd, fellow Lions and guests, these two sad dollars because I forgot my Lions here.
Yes, you did.
An honest woman.
show me you're a rich
I
man?
know, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
You'll fit right in.
Okay. Mark Kelch, the birthday boy. Happy birthday!
I don't remember, did we say, I don't think we.
President Lloyd, fellow Lions and guests, I'll throw a $5 in there. I tried to keep it kind of quiet today, but after it was posted and on the radio, it didn't work too well. So I do admit I turned 20 today using the Celsius scale. If you have confusion, multiply it by 9/5 and add 32. That's my accolade. Second dollar is for my wife's having her second cataract surgery in the morning. It's a 7:20 a.m. appointment down in Happy Valley, which is next to Clackamas down there. And there's snow in the forecast. Troy. Third dollar, very happy to see Ron Stockler and Pastor Shrubner Kathy with us today. And finally, the quote of the week is from Ralph Waldo Emerson. Figured this was appropriate today. The years teach much, which the days never know.
Thank you.
That was key.
Okay,
Can you publish that?
Mr. Ron, I'm gonna stand right here next to you in case you fall.
Okay, I really didn't hurt myself, but I get to love the attention. Hey, it's great to be back. My heart condition is but the same as Bob Heideman's. I could drop dead tomorrow, I could live 10 more years, and nobody knows how long it's going to last. So I plan to be a bad boy occasionally and really earn my way out of this mess.
Ooh, a bad boy. Mr. J.
Mr. J is a soda pop.
Is that Dr.
I'd like to thank, President
Lloyd.
Lions and guests. Oh, Lord, I forgot again. I'd like to thank those of you who spoke as clearly as Lion Kathy.
I know she did, didn't
She did. For us hearing impaired, I got 2 hearing aids.
she? In the same
Uh, and I'm not very receptive either, but Line Kathy did the best job of any line who held this mic. And I appreciate that, plus our...
Yeah, whatever.
Thanks, Jay. Mr. J. And he said it's a soda pop. Great.
President Lloyd, fellow Lions and guests. Wait a minute, you said my picture's in the paper?
I think that's on Facebook.
Wow, like,
It's on Facebook.
who looks at Facebook?
It's mine. Yeah.
I don't see, plot, any of that stuff, but I do text a little bit. Anyway, happy bucks. Bob Piper, you got an anniversary win? All right, I've got one on Friday. With my current wife, it'll be 44 years.
Current wife.
My current wife.
Okay.
That was, the first one got smart faster.
Now, you do remember her, don't you, Hal? Second dollar. If anybody goes by the Lions building over there, you can see some of what Dwayne Smith's been doing over there. Got a new fence up on the right side of the building, and he cleaned up all the garbage and stuff on the left side of the building. And I guess it was kind of, another dollar, I guess it was kind of nice to see Sonny Roppler here. Kind of. Or alias Foster Brooks. But the rest is just happy.
Cindy Sessions.
President Lloyd, fellow Lions and guests, I have some happy dollars. One, Ron, it's great to see you here today. And Kathy, also you. It's been way too long. Sam had her surgery on Wednesday. She is home recovering. They did this surgery with a robot. So I Googled it. I'm thinking this little microscopic kind of thing. No, it stood about this high. And I'm like, wow, modern technology. I also have a happy dollar. I made homemade Pop-Tarts with my sourdough starter. I mean, it doesn't sound like much to you guys, but when you can't have something to eat, you love your Pop-Tarts, this is a win-win for me. And also a happy dollar for our $1,200 donation to the public library. That Facebook picture that Greg denies, it has him front and center handing a check over.
Yeah.
I want some of those Pop-Tarts. I thought you'd bring them. Don't forget your money. That's what I'm here for, is to collect money.
She's doing it.
I already told you we're skipping you, so.
I think she's already trained. What do y'all think?
George out of the jungle.
Never
And I'm
heard,
saying his name because he doesn't have a badge.
never heard that before, did you?
President Lloyd, fellow Lions and guests, this is actually an apology dollar. Last week, John Commissioner Pat said he used to be in charge of some things that I lost. And I responded that, well, being part of this organization didn't help. And I feel bad about that because it's really not true. When I did tell people I was a Pioneer Lion, they would say positive things. So I want to apologize for that. I just told you I didn't. And now what hurt me was they knew I was a good friend of Hal Palmer.
Thank you, George. Now, last for the best, Hal Palmer. Oh, did I forget you? I looked at you already.
Okay, President Lloyd, fellow Lions and guests, what a wonderful sweatshirt you have. Now, the way she wears it, imagine how it looked on me.
Probably a little tight.
Yes. Okay, first happy dollar. I'm getting out of my car and this hot red sports car comes in with an old man in it. And I say, I wonder what he's looking for. It's my friend Ron Stockler. Glad you're back, Ron. And then Pastor to Governor Kathy, being beside her during some of her trials and mostly tribulations, right? Right. It is really good to see you here. She promised she'd come. And the final one is a happy, sad, whatever. My brother was over in Tri-Cities and had lunch with dinner with past President Brian Paxuda. So he sends his good news, which makes me acting temporary treasurer. This is getting challenging. And we've got Russ Case, Ralph, and Steve Johnson on Zoom. So guys, glad you're there.
Leroy, I'm so sorry I walked right by you.
President Lloyd, fellow Lions and guests. Start out with a belated happy dollar. Yes, it was my birthday last Tuesday. So there we are. Kind of happy with that, maybe. Another year down. But leading up to that, my wife and I, we went down to Newport and spent the weekend down in Newport for the Newport Seafood and Wine Festival. We go down there and we volunteer, we work for whoever, and we spend 4 hours handing out wine glasses and greeting people and stuff. And it was kind of fun with these thousands of people coming into their event. So that was fun. And then, not that we don't get enough wine, we're going up to Seattle for another Taste Washington Wine Festival. So there you are.
Is that on the Tuesday also?
No, that's this Saturday and Sunday.
Anyway, there you are.
Well, you have another dollar if you want to take one.
I'll see.
Okay. Mrs. Gail Bradley.
President Lloyd, fellow Lions and guests, there's my one birthday dollar. And then this other dollar is, I'm happy because I turned in $125 for Leader Dog. Your donation. So
I believe it's your turn, Lloyd.
All right.
You're done.
What's wrong with that?
Okay, we'll turn the meeting over to our guest speaker. Thank you, President Lloyd. Fellow Lions, I'm very happy to be your program chair for the month of March 2023. In fact, I'm happy to be here in 2023. But in spite of popular demand, I'm going to skip my usual stand-up routine and save the time for our speaker, Judge Steve Warning. Judge Warning worked for 16 years in the area as a lawyer, and he served 24 years as Superior Court Judge in Cowlitz County. He has been the past president of the Washington State Superior Court Judge Association. He's been past dean of the Washington State Judicial College, and he has served for 10 years as the chair of the Legislative Advocacy Committee for the Washington State Superior Courts, which means he advocates in front of the legislature for issues that affect Superior Courts statewide. When I was a commissioner, most of the time, Judge Warning was assigned to be the presiding judge by his colleagues, which means in addition to his judicial load, he also had to supervise the court staff, manage the budget, and liaison with commissioners. And I would say in the 12 years I was there, Judge Warning and I never once failed to agree on the date we would meet.
And a little else.
The other issues were a little less amenable. But anyway, Judge Steve has been married for 42 years and counting to Angie. He has 2 children and 4 grandchildren. His topic today is the decriminalization of drugs. So please help me give a nice warm Lions welcome to Judge Steve Warning.
Usually I don't need microphones. Can you hear me? Okay, all right, I'll stick with this then. So one preliminary, as George said, we spent about 12 years in county elected office at the same time. And I said this before, in that 12 years, I never dealt with a commissioner who pissed me off so often.
Yes.
But having said that, in all seriousness, George was by far the best of the county commissioners that I ever worked with. We came from 2 different positions. We busted each other's chops on a regular basis, and in general, we got a lot done. Kind of not the state of politics anymore, but it certainly was then, and it was good to work with him. So, as George said, I want to talk today, to some extent, about the notion of decriminalization of drugs, making that no longer a crime. Having said that, what I really want to talk about is whatever you guys want to hear. Okay, I can talk about most any topic under the sun for 45 minutes. I would much rather answer your questions. I don't care what the topic is. I've been retired now a little over 2 years. I still go back and work as a judge pro tem, fill-in, 2-3 times a month. So I'm pretty aware of what's going on in the court system right now. So please, if you have any questions about anything to do with the courts, the judicial branch, just raise your hand and ask. Thank you. I was hoping we'd get going.
Big question. How do you feel about the decriminalization of this drug stuff? From what you've seen as a judge.
I'll give you the short answer, and I've got the longer answer coming when I kind of get there. I'm really conflicted about it. And as we get along, I'll tell you why. Well, you want me to just dive into that? Or?
Yeah. Hey, John Michael.
Yeah.
Do you and your wife still develop leader dogs?
Angie and I raised 9 puppies for guide dogs for the blind. Thank you very much. I am trying to talk her right now into number 10. One of the dogs, so out of those 9, 7 of them became guides for a blind person, which was pretty good. Usually it's about half or a little less. They operate out of California and out of Boring, Oregon. About the 6th dog we raised was a dog named Chili. Chili had to be medically retired, guiding a woman because of some back issues, hip issues. She was what we call a very high-level user. She was president of the National Guide Dog Users Association. Our dog Chili testified on Capitol Hill some time ago. If you go to the airport and you see those relieving stations for service animals, that's part of Chili's doing. So we were pretty proud of that. He came back here, and at the suggestion of Judge Marilyn Hahn, she brought him over to juvenile court one day, just as kind of a companion dog, make people feel better. We found out that Chili had the completely untaught ability to look around the room, see who the most stressed out person was, and walk over and stick his head in their lap. And so he spent 5 years working in our court system. He worked in our juvenile court, he worked in our drug court and our mental health court, and we literally had occasions where people, like at juvenile court, there was one, I happened to be there, woman came up, one of these situations where she's in danger of losing her kids. She's slowly getting her drug issues, her mental health issues under control. And she was very fond of Chili. And the day it came time to review her case, I don't remember the reason, but Chili wasn't there. And she was so locked up, if you will, that they finally just decided, you know what, we're going to kick this over a couple of weeks to when Chili is here so he can sit next to her and then she can talk to her. So he had 2 very good careers. He did better in his retirement than I've done so far. And unfortunately, he just passed recently, so that's a long answer to, at this point, we've got one other dog who flunked because he's just a mess. And I'm trying to convince Angie that we need to raise dog number 10. We'll see how it goes. Other questions before I jump back in? Okay. Do we or do we not decriminalize drugs? Let me ask a question to the group. Right now, if you get pulled over by the police and you happen to have a pocket full of heroin or fentanyl or methamphetamine or what have you, what happens to you?
You get cited.
Absolutely nothing. Okay, let me give you kind of the short history of how we got to that point. About 3 years ago, this state Supreme Court issued an opinion called State versus Blake. And for the last, how many years, the law was if you were in possession of drugs, if you went to trial on an issue of whether you're in possession, the state had to prove that you had them on you. You had the drugs. They didn't have to prove you knew they were there. This gave rise to what was known as "these aren't my pants" defense. Heard that a lot. But anyhow, in that Blake case, the Supreme Court said, you know what, that's really not fair. The state should have to prove A, you possessed them, B, you actually knew you had them. And so the state of the law at that point was the only statute relating to this was invalid. This was during really the rise of COVID. And that year during the legislative session, because of all the COVID restrictions, the legislators were kind of on their own. I don't know if you spent much time in Olympia, but, okay, yeah. As Hal, as George are aware, there are a lot of lobbyists up there, a lot of people who have interest in things. There are also a lot of people who know what they're talking about this certain narrow issue. And so there wasn't much of that going on during that session, and the legislators kind of got their pointy little heads together, and the rule became that if you are caught with drugs, you can't be charged with anything unless the police have given you 3 prior referrals for treatment. Well, nobody knew what a referral for treatment was. They didn't include any money to figure out a system to track prior referrals. So net result was we're about 99% sure, nobody's volunteered that they had one. But since that law was enacted in the 2001 session that went into effect in 2022, nobody has actually been charged with possession of drugs. And the police, given all of that, not surprisingly, I'm not going to mess with this. You know, somebody's got drugs, I can waste the next half hour trying to give them a referral for treatment and all this other stuff, or I can go on and do something else. So right now, nothing happens. And that particular statute dies July of this year. So the legislature is under some pressure to come up with a new plan. There are several proposals floating around right now. Most of them involve some effort at trying to get people into treatment. Obviously, they also involve some criminal penalties, so we will see what they do. Oregon, by initiative a couple of years ago, eliminated criminal penalties for drug possession. They just had, after 2 years in September, they had a number of hearings and a study about, well, how are we doing with this? And not surprisingly, they're doing really poorly. What was it? Of all the people contacted by police, and police under the Oregon system are supposed to give people referrals for services. That can include treatment, harm mitigation, which is generally clean needles, a few other things like that. 0.8% of all the people they contacted actually took a referral to treatment. Most of those never did anything about the referral. Over 60% are needle exchange. And they had a professor, I think Harvard, one of the big Ivy League schools, who kind of ran the evaluation of how they were doing under the system. And his comment I thought was really good. He says, I don't know why any of you are surprised. The drugs that are out there now are really, really, really good. People who have mental health issues, who aren't happy in their lives, feel a lot better when they use these. You take away any kind of disincentive from using them, and they continue to use them. So that's the state of the law in Oregon. They haven't changed it, but that's what's going on there. And I can get into other places. Portugal's used as an example a lot. So now I'll get into your question about how I feel about it. On the one hand, and please ask questions, don't let me just keep droning on. On the one hand, there is no question but what drug addiction is a medical issue, okay? It's not because you're a poor human being. It's not because you don't have good moral character. There's a bone in your head that means that, you know, if you drink too much. You can't stop after your second one. If you use, you can't stop using. And you don't stop using until you hit bottom. I spent 24 years finding out what bottom is for people, and it's, for a lot of people, it's way the hell down there. It's, you know, way past being homeless, getting beat up on a regular basis, all those kind of things. In 1999, we started the Cowlitz County Drug Court program. Drug courts were brand new back then. Ours was either the third or the fourth in the state. We never figured that out, and there were maybe 100 in the country when we started ours. There's about 4,000 of them now. And the basic premise of those is to try and provide kind of that bottom, that disincentive for people. Here's treatment, you do well, we're all happy, we see you every week, we clap for you, we're proud of you. You didn't do so well, you have to do something that you don't want to do. Whether that's go out and pick cans off the highway, or do some extra 12-step meetings, or all those things. It's pretty basic parenting, frankly. And it took me a long time to sort of figure that out. But I thought after 16 years as a lawyer, I had a pretty good idea what addiction and drug use was all about. I didn't. I think I gave up drug court in 2006, and I was still learning. I still am now. I still get to go do drug court from time to time.
So did that same law affect alcohol, the open beer?
No, it's just strictly the hard stuff.
So, what you're saying, you can get a worse fine for having an open bottle of beer than you can for having a whole pile of heroin in your car.
That's the current state of the law, yep. Okay. Yes?
Hi there. One, I'm glad I don't recognize you. That means I've been good.
I get that a lot.
Yeah.
I have a question. We have a shop in downtown Longview, right? And I had a tweaker, my first and only hopefully experience with a tweaker. I wasn't going to do anything until I saw him walking down the middle of Vanderhood against traffic, and I called the non-emergency line. Ended up being 5 different cop cars out there. They were with him for a half an hour, and then they let him go back down the alley. And I mean, when I say tweaking, there was no question about it. Oh, now I'm done. Okay. Anyways, my question. So that's my question is, I get that their hands are tied, but he was a danger to himself. That's how, I mean, he could hardly walk.
Okay. This state has and has always had very strict standards for civil commitment. You're that person who's so mentally ill, we take them to the hospital rather than to jail. You have to be a danger to yourself or others, basically. So the fact that you're walking down the street, might get hit by a car, that's not going to do it. And by the way, St. John's is packed. Mental health beds are, Washington has underfunded the mental health system for 40 years. And it's really showing now. Our jail currently is full of a lot of people who should be up at Western State Hospital. There's a federal order that they have to go there within 14 days. Some of them have been in our county jail for 6-8 months because Western State just has no space for them. So that's kind of what's going on there is they're damned if they do and damned if they don't.
And I got it.
I have a question on drug court. I just want to share experience. I was a new commissioner in drug court. Steve had started it, and I didn't know what it was. I thought they were just letting people go for whatever. And it was the first time I sat in and watched drug court. A young woman came up, and she had failed her drug test or failed to see her counselor. And she had her baby with her. And Judge Warning said, find somebody in this courtroom to take that baby because you're not leaving, you're going back to jail. She started bawling and crying, and someone came up, took her baby, and off she went. And that's where I learned what the stick was in drug court. And there's also a carrot. And one thing I asked you to share, Steve, is you talked about a gentleman a while back that had failed 5 times. I had more than one of those, but the one I'm thinking of, maybe you could touch on that case a little bit and how he wound up.
Well, one of the things I love about still living in this community, I see people on a weekly basis who went through that drug court program and are doing great. And it thrills me to death. There's a guy named Logan Hornan, and he won't mind me using his name because he tells his story to anybody who will listen. Logan owns North American Tarp across the street from Roland's Wines down here. Logan was in the program, and he got arrested again. And he comes into court and he says to me, I've had it, just boot me out of the program, send me to prison. And I don't know why, but for some reason I said, no, I'm not going to do that. You're going to sit here in jail until next week, and we're going to talk again. And he came back in the following week, he said, you know what, I think I'm ready to give it a try. And I don't know if any of you know Logan. Great human being. He is a absolute rock star in the clean and sober community here. He just took a job where he is the main liaison with the Department of Corrections for everybody coming out of prison who needs some connection with drug treatment. I mean, I'm so proud of him I could bust. There's another young lady who works in one of the local breweries in their kitchen staff. And she led a hard life. She works in their kitchen now. She smiles every time she sees me. I smile every time I see her. And she's been clean for a long time. So, Ed, you want me to proselytize up here for another hour about drug court? I'd be happy to. But so anyhow, side A of that question about what do we do about drugs is it's a medical condition. Does it really make sense to treat a medical condition with jail time? Because nobody ever became not an addict by going to jail. Okay? That's sort of side A. Side B, unlike a lot of other medical conditions, that drug addiction is sending you well on your way to all sorts of other criminal behavior. We have the unfortunate distinction of being right along I-5. That's a good conduit both for the drugs that come through. It's also a good conduit for people who use drugs. I don't know if you remember when Home Depot first went in here. They had the highest theft loss in that Home Depot store of any in the country. And we generally figured it was due to our location and easy access. We import a lot of shoplifters from Portland up here. You see it on a pretty regular basis. So that drug addiction, whether it's methamphetamine, fentanyl, heroin, whatever it may be, is going to lead you into the criminal justice system a whole lot sooner than anything else. And so the question to me, and getting back to how I figure this out in my own head, is it humane for us to ignore that addict until they start doing something to somebody else? Whether it's thieving from them or being a lunatic on the streets or assaulting somebody or whatever it may be. And so where I come around to is I don't think it is. Because by the time that person makes it into the criminal justice system through some other avenue, some other charge, the burglary or all the thefts or whatever it may be, by the time they get there, they've done a ton of damage to themselves, not just physically, but people do lots of really, really horrible things in order to get some drugs. Stuff that's in your brain for the rest of your life. They've probably done damage to a child or two that may or may not ever go away. So ultimately where I come down to is I think it's more humane if we address it as soon as we can rather than later. I think it's probably better for the community too. It's more expensive. Am I still okay?
But the problem, isn't the problem, the person doesn't really realize they have the problem until such time?
They don't care if they've got the problem.
I know it, that's what I mean,
Yeah.
they don't care.
Until the negative consequences are sufficient. And, again, where that bottom is, that's what we always talk about in treatment, is somebody has to hit bottom before they can start back up. That bottom is a different location for lots and lots of people. But to the extent we can kind of hurry that along, I think is a good thing. Number one. Number two, once somebody, very few people kind of open the door for the first time when they show up at 12-step meeting, and life is good thereafter. There's a lot of trips along the way. They need to actually start building up some incentive. You talk to most of the people who go into drug court, say, and they'll tell you, no, the first time I went in there was just to get out of jail. I didn't want to do anything about treatment. I was happy using. So you've got to kind of give them, A, the opportunity to see how to get better, and B, a reason to do so. In the conversation about decriminalization, the place that's always sort of held up as the shining example is Portugal, of all places. Portugal decriminalized drugs. You look at their statistics, they're doing great. And so I need to look at this further. What I found out is Portugal decriminalized drugs. They put a boatload of money into basically a civil drug court system. If you are caught with drugs, you are referred to a 3-person tribunal who has the authority to force you into treatment, to put you in jail if you don't go to treatment. It's basically civil drug court. And not surprisingly, it's working real, real well. We haven't done that. The big kicker to all this is all these things I'm talking about, getting people into treatment, all that, those programs cost money. And that is what kind of slows us down in a lot of ways. The statistics on drug court say for every buck we spend on drug court, we save about $10 in other costs that aren't incurred. The costs of the crimes those people commit, the cost of incarceration. But you don't see those a lot of times as direct savings. It doesn't lower the budget over here someplace else, so you got more money to spend on drug court, which is why we spend a lot of time hat in hand going to the legislature and talking to the community about, you know, why we need more money for drug treatment programs. We've been real lucky here from day one when I first proposed this thing. The police departments, all of them were very supportive. Longview Police loaned me a lady named Connie Budge, who wrote all our grants for us. So I think I had the best experience here we could have had to get that program going, and it's now, you know, just a regular part of our judicial system and a regular part of the community. So in the end, to get to my answer to your question, it needs to be criminalized because that's the best and most humane way to treat the people who've got the problem. That doesn't mean it doesn't come with its own set of problems. But yes, sir.
Drugs are available in jail, correct?
Unfortunately, yes. Not.
So by putting them in jail, you're giving them an access to the drugs.
They got less access than they do out on the street.
Right.
Yeah, they're. How do I put this politely? We all have the ability to carry things on us when we're buck naked, if we have enough incentive. And so what happens? One of the reasons I would never want to work in our jail system is because part of their job is taking a flashlight and telling people to bend over. Okay? I mean, that's just part of the job. So it does happen. It's a lot less prevalent, I think, than a lot of people think. But yeah, there's no way they can screen 100% of it out. Yes, sir.
Off the subject a little bit, but the Georgia courts have now created a panel that can throw prosecuting attorneys in the wind. Is that something that you agree with? Or?
Absolutely not. The hallmark of the criminal justice system in this country is independently elected people at several levels, using their discretion. If you don't like them, unelect them. Yeah, the notion that the governor of Florida removes prosecutors because he doesn't like them, I mean, he gets to do that. That scares the hell out of me. I obviously, given my background, I'm a big believer in the independence of the judiciary. And I think the founding fathers were too. I don't want to see that change. People are standing up like I'm running out of time. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And good to see some familiar faces.
Thank you.
I'd like to give you a Lions mug and an application.
Be sure and use that application.
Yeah.
Now that you're retired, don't have anything to do.
Yeah. Hey, we have Allison Laura from the Red Cross here to talk a little bit.
For 3 minutes. Sorry. I just cut your time down because we have one more presentation after you.
Hello everyone, thank you for waiting to have me here. In the work of disasters and emergencies, things do come up, so I apologize for being late. I had to deal with a couple of calls in the last few hours. But I am here, happy to be here today in Longview. I have been making a lot of trips up here over the last few weeks and months. For those that are not familiar, one of the things that we do with the Red Cross has to do with all things related to emergencies and disasters, both at the local scale and at the larger scale. And one thing that people don't realize is that one of the most common things that we respond to locally, all throughout the Cascades region, which includes the Longview area, is a house fire. And house fires happen a lot more common than people think. Even if it's just minor damage, it can cause a lot of stress, emotional stress, spiritual stress, physical stress to the family, and especially ones that it destroys their home. And when you start thinking about the most vulnerable people in our communities, whether it's the children, the elderly, those with access and functional needs, they're the ones that we need to make sure that we are able to help. And we're not able to do any of that work without wonderful people like our community partners, volunteers, and community officials to make sure that we're supporting everyone that we can in our community. With that in mind, one of the things that we like to do for our preparedness programs is throughout the year, we go out into our communities, we install free smoke alarms, and we also do free home fire safety education. And so we always tell people, we just want a few minutes of your time. We will install as many alarms as your home needs for free. And then we'll walk through a couple of things and thinking about what home fire safety looks like for you and your family or whoever else lives in that space. Once a year, we like to pick a target community where we go in. We ideally like to focus on anywhere between 50 to 100 homes, and then pick specific neighborhoods in that community and go from there. And this year, they had picked Longview for us. And so over the last couple of months, I've been working with their community partners here. I've been speaking with John Dunaway from Longview Fire Department here. He's one of the fire marshals. And kind of thinking about what communities are the most vulnerable. Where is there going to be a really big need for us to go in, install those free smoke alarms, and provide that education. And so we have done a lot of canvassing and going out into the communities of St. Helens and Highland Park. And we've been sharing information on what we'll be doing for our event that we have picked, which will be in about 2 weeks on Saturday the 18th. And so with all the work that our team has been doing, our executive director, Mike Drake, had reached out to Lloyd to see, first of all, if anyone is interested in getting free smoke alarms, or if you can share the word in your communities, whether it's at other social spaces that you interact with, at church, at local grocery stores, your social groups, or if you are interested in helping us that day and being a volunteer with us as an event-based volunteer. Because there's a lot of the work that you do as Lions Club members is, again, you're serving your community. You're building that space for everyone. And I just wanted to come here today, put a face to one of the many faces that you'll see with the Red Cross, and leave some information for you. And we'll also be able to share it digitally as well by email. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask myself or Lloyd, and he'll send them my way. But I'm hoping that I'll get to see some of you, or we'll get to even help some of you, or help the people that you care about and love. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great.
Marilyn. Okay. Marilyn has an announcement. Allison. is yours.
I'd like to ask Allison Moyer to come forward, please. President Lloyd, fellow Lions and guests, I'm greatly honored to be the Boys and Girls Chair this year. And during that time, you can come over here. Allison, our Lion Allison Moyer, who actually is employed by the Educational School District serving as Youth Service Specialist and Prevention and Youth Services. And because of that, last year, our club supported this service. It's called the Cowlitz Connect Resource Fair, and we supported it by donating time and serving hot dogs. But Allison's program provided, I believe, 300 backpacks to families for back to school. And so this year they ran out of backpacks, and so this year they're seeking clubs and organizations to help support to purchase more backpacks and make a better program for the community. Our board approved to donate $500. Lloyd, where are you? So I was asking if maybe our President Lloyd would give that presentation of that check to Allison, and it is directly going to the Cowlitz Connect Resource Fair program. Thank you so much, Allison. We really appreciate your membership too and the support that you do. Thank you.
Well, since you got promoted, you don't need the money anymore, right?
No, she's commuting. She needs gas money.
Steve, give it to Steve. Steve has an announcement. Steve?
I'll save it.
He's gonna save it.
Okay, Greg, give Greg then. Greg the announcement.
Greg can save it too.
Yeah, Greg, save it. We want to get to the good stuff.
President Lloyd, fellow Lions and guests, I don't need a mic. Tomorrow evening, 6:30 over at Canterbury Park is our Sight and Hearing Foundation meeting. Any Lions more than willing and more welcome to join, see what we do for writing eyeglasses and hearing aids.